Hey, everybody. Welcome to Rod Chat. You all know who I am. I'm Laura, and welcome, everybody. We have a banger of a show tonight. I got some great guests, and they are going to help you figure things out. Their experience is amazing, and I can't wait. I've been so excited all week to get them on here, and I hope everybody enjoys it. Please, everybody, remember to like and share out my videos so that I can bring you more content. Hi, Miss Wendy. How is Miss Wendy? Hi, Faith. Welcome. I'm so glad you gals could join in. Hopefully we're going to have some fun, learn a lot. That's what the whole thing's about. And everybody will get something out of the show. So let me introduce to you right now. I've only got one guest on right at the moment. I don't know what happened to Trish, but we've got Kale. Hi, Kale. How are you? And welcome.
How you doing?
Oh, audio's good.
Yeah, it sounds good. Good.
Sounds great. How are you doing tonight?
I'm okay. Sitting here in Arizona, it could be worse.
Oh, you enjoying that nice weather?
Yeah. Still, the sun's still up here. I don't know if it's still up there, but it's.
Oh, no, it's dark and pouring out. It's
Oh, I'm
lousy out
sorry.
there. Oh, wait, I got a message from Trish. Let me check on my phone. Give me a quick second, guys. I've got a message from Trish. She might be having problem logging in. Oh, no, she said she's coming.
Uh-oh.
She's running a little late. That's okay. She'll pop in.
That
And
is
we'll
typical.
It's all right as long as she makes an appearance. Hi, Miss Fantastique. How are you? And there's Cassandra. Hi, Cassandra. Wow, everybody's popping in. That's great. We'll give them all a chance to get in here and get in on the fun. And yeah, it's been raining here like all day, and it's supposed to turn to snow again.
Oh, lucky you.
Oh, I know. We're just loving it. But I think it's going to miss our area and just hit the mountain way. So
Well, it could be worse.
yeah, it could be. Of course, my husband, he takes off riding up for the mountain because he wanted to try out, the new tires on the truck.
That's funny.
And then he gets up there and he calls me. He says, "There's no snow." I said, "You need help." Oh,
Well, you
it's
can try
pouring
them out
your
in the
way too,
mud.
Miss Wendy. I think everybody in this area is getting rain. Wendy, I'm always late for everything. I can relate. Oh, I'm usually early because I like to be early and make sure that I get there where I'm. There she is. There she is. Let's get her in here. Miss Trish, there she is.
Hello.
Hey, what's
Hi,
going
guys.
on?
Sorry about the delay. It's super busy here today, so I'm at work. So,
Oh, that's okay. So as long as you can stay on for a little while, that'd be great. Like I said, we could do this in several segments. So this way, you'll have more time.
yes.
And
Well,
and
there's
then we
always
could
a lot to talk about. So,
oh yeah. So we could just hit it all up, a little at a time. And oh, hey, Mark. Mark's on. First time hearing you guys. How's it
hello,
going,
Mr.
Mark?
Kelly.
Hello, Miss Kelly. Hello, Mark.
It's Raina, not Mark. Okay, it's Raina.
Oh, hi,
Just
Rena.
let everybody else know that Kale and Trish are my cousins from Arizona. So, that's how a lot of people are going to know who they are. So, yeah, great that everybody can make it and they're popping in. And I don't know, we can get the ball on, get it going, guys. Um, I'm going to start it off with the first question I ask everybody. What made you guys get into paranormal investigations?
Go ahead, Miss
Well,
Kelly.
I'm going to start only because I have the most limited time here. You can revisit with Mr. Kelly. So, there are several things, and some forgive me, but I'm going to share some understanding, and most
Cutting
people
out.
outside know my story. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
heard you
you're
now.
cutting
Go ahead.
out.
Can you guys? Okay.
Sit still.
Okay. Good. I'm so sorry. I wasn't moving. Anyway, so my story really begins when I was very young. There are two very important things that happened. One, Laura, I know you know the castle because we all stayed there.
There you
So
go.
right. So some of my earliest memories are at the castle. which, fun fact, I have a couch that was original from that castle right now in my garage. So I do have that family heirloom.
The one with the dark wood and the purple swirled. The one that was in my parents' hallway.
Yes, the one that was in your parents' hallway for your lifetime.
Yes, I spent many hours on that couch reading.
You want it back?
Yes.
Yes, actually, I would like to have it back.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so some of my earliest memories are there, and of course, we were kids, and I used to just think that they were telling us ghost stories, you know, because we were kids, and it's a castle, and it's fun and creepy. But I do remember seeing a young girl there. But I was very young, so I didn't even understand what that was.
Right.
And then the more significant was in my home on Richardson Ave. So again, I was very young there. I want to say the most vivid memories that I go back to are about 5, 6. Now, at that time, so, you know, as an adult, you start processing things. You know, I was having experience with ghosts and things that I saw physically that were, and I'm not joking, torturing me. And as I got older, I just thought it was because I had a traumatic experience as a young girl. I was molested. I'm just going to say it. And I thought that was my way of dealing with the pain and hurt that comes with that. Okay. And it was only until Kale and I started researching paranormal that I really let myself believe that those events actually did happen to me.
Right.
For a long time, I thought it was just, well, I was a young girl. That's how my mind dealt with the trauma of not understanding what's going on. And then I'll fast forward to my kind of second part of my journey, which is kind of that acceptance of what happened to me as a little girl and understanding that I really was experiencing some phenomenon. And then whether or not, well, really, it led into us investigating. So Kale will tell you in his version of the story that I was very much the naysayer. Nope, 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 nope. I don't believe you. You're full of, you know what? Nope, nope, nope. Until I heard an EVP that said my name. And it didn't just say my name, it said my name a lot. And I couldn't explain that. And so that really started my journey, was learning. The first thing I did when I heard that EVP was I went back into, no, it wasn't even Google back then, so I went into the computer and I typed how to fake an EVP because I thought Kale was faking it.
Right,
yeah. Or the client was faking it. I thought the client was doing it.
Right.
But yeah, so that's what really started my journey, was all of that combined. I was in the right place at the right time to really learn about the paranormal and figure out, you know, everybody's in it to find the answer for yourself, right? So Kale and I were together, but we had different journeys and different purposes. So I will say investigating with your husband is good and bad, but I'm glad that we were able to do that together. I really am. We learned a lot together. We were able to spend that time alone, away from the chaos of family. So yeah, that's really my journey. That's what started it all off, was, you know, trying to educate myself and figure out for myself what that meant.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty much how I started as well, the castle ordeal. And then other things after that, just, you know, it makes you question, okay, what the heck is going on? Why is this happening? And is it real? And that's just pretty much how it started. You, Mr. Kale, how about you?
Oh boy. I thought you were just going to hammer on Trish because she's only here for 30 minutes. I was really actually never interested in ghosts at all. I've always been into ufology and things of that nature. Of course, growing up as a kid, my mother was all into, you know, what was it, In Search Of? And then you had all these different shows that were on TV. So, you know, we watched Star Trek, we watched things on Bigfoot and UFOs. So I actually was online doing some research on ufology and came across this, like a forum, and it was like ghost hunting, and I'm like, what is that? So I was like, wow, that's goofy. But anyway, I being a tech head, I got to chatting with their tech guy. He had some pictures posted of his equipment, and he had these little Swan. I think they're looking little tiny infrared cameras. And I remember messaging him and saying, you know, if you just build your own, you could cover a lot more area. And he's like, build your own. I said, yeah, just build your own iron floodlights. It's not that hard. So anyway, we got into all this different conversation about building equipment, and I ended up building 2 or 3 of these floodlights. So they ran off battery, or you could plug them in. So they ended up inviting me on an investigation down at Fort Bowie, which is on the Arizona, New Mexico border. It's an old Civil War fort. And I packed up my stuff in the car. I went down there. Of course, that tech guy was Paul Bradford. He later became the tech guy on Ghost Hunters International. But so I was really never into paranormal. I took an audio recorder. I bought one before I went, and I came home and I found I had some EVPs, and I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. So anyway, he kept inviting me on investigations, but it got to the point that I just became like, I was in the tech stuff. So I became the technical manager over a period of time. And I don't know, I just started doing tons of research and designing and building equipment for this field. But it was more than that. It was, you know, most people, I've met so many people in this field, and I've done so many interviews over the years that, and listened to interviews of people talk about all the places they've investigated in their EVPs. But I don't know how many people have stopped and actually said, well, what is an EVP and why did I get that? And why is it at a frequency I couldn't hear? So that's when I started researching different types of frequencies. So, you know, I realized then I was like, well, how do I find out what frequency this EVP is? So then I had to, I got Adobe Audition. So I started looking into the frequency of EVPs, and I had several other people send me theirs. I took my own, and I realized that the majority of my EVPs were at 70 hertz or less, but the average range of human speech is 300 to 3,500 hertz. So I was like, well, gee, that's in the extreme low frequency range. So it's just this whole journey of everything is a frequency that surrounds us. Everything. We vibrate, trees vibrate, everything vibrates at a different frequency. So I've always understood that the secret to all this is based on frequencies. So my next thing was, well, if that's the case, maybe I can design or develop or build a piece of equipment that would let me only hear in that range. And the other problem was I would do all this investigating, and then I get home and I do my review and say, oh, I got an EVP. And I'm thinking to myself, man, it'd be nice if I could hear it as it happened, because then maybe I could start some kind of conversation. So nowadays they have all kinds of equipment to do that, but at the time they didn't. So then I started listening live. And so the purpose of that was, well, if I got an EVP, I could respond right away. And that got me a long way. And initially that first EVP that Trish and I got together, it was pretty eerie. I was sitting in bed. She was in the laundry room, and it said, Trisha.
Oh,
and I was like,
wow.
what the hell was that? So I took it down to the laundry room and I said, here, I want you to hear this. And she goes, well, what is it? And she put my earbuds in. She heard it, and she immediately threw them out. And she goes, no. You fake that. I said, how am I going to fake that? She goes, that said my name. So it became this whole journey of different things with this team over a period of time. You know, people had their own agendas. They wanted to get on TV, whatever. I wasn't into it for all that stuff. I ended up being able to investigate a lot of really, really interesting places, and we can get into all that. But I think, you know, Trish is only on for a limited time. So if you want to ask her questions, and then we can get into all of that.
Okay. Yeah. Because actually, there's this one question. I don't know if you see it on the screen from Wendy. If you can answer that quick, and then we'll just jump on Trish.
EVPs and DVPs. Do you know the difference between EVPs and well, I don't even know what a DVP is. I haven't even been investigating for a few years, so.
Oh, direct voice phenomenon versus the electromagnetic phenomenon.
Oh, the listening live, Kale. I think that's the official term for it.
They used to call it, well, the technical term for it was instrumental transcommunication. I guess they have their own acronym for it now. Do I know the difference between hearing it live as opposed to an EVP? Well, I mean, they both imprint over electronic means. Usually most audio recorders, they cover an extreme low frequency range and a high frequency range, more so than you can audibly hear. So I think that I don't really know that there's a difference between the two, other than one you're listening to as it happens and one you're listening to when you get home, but they're both going through the same format. So I don't know. That's new for me. DVP. I've never heard that.
Yeah, well, yeah, like I said, they probably just come up with that, you know. So you know it as under another name. Seeing that Trish is only going to be here for a short while, we'll ask her a few questions, and then guys, we're going to get into the technical stuff with Kale because he is the man. Trish, what was your favorite? What was your favorite investigation doing?
You know, for those who do investigate, you know, there's a lot of boring investigations. There's a lot of hours sitting in a dark room talking to yourself, right? So it's pretty boring unless you're getting some things that are happening. But most, I'd say 90% of our cases were pretty boring. But when people ask me this question, I say the same thing. And it was I don't know if it was our first, but it was one of our first residentials. And we still to this day could probably go back to those recordings and get more and more EVPs. It was a 600 square foot apartment, or maybe 600 to 800 square foot apartment, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. We've got more evidence from that small location as far as EVPs go than we have on any other location anywhere, ever, to this day. And I think there are so many more buried in there that we haven't really. So when Kale and I investigated, we decided, and I want to say it was mostly between us, but we led the team for a long time, right? Which included some famous names that Kale brought up earlier. And we decided certain things for our team that we wanted to standardize, right? One of those was EVPs. So me personally, I don't ever really enhance an EVP. I will take just the straight recording as I hear it and clip it. That's about the most editing I've ever done. There are some instances where we do enhance it, where you can turn up the volume just so you can kind of catch what maybe that EVP is saying. But other than that, I want it just as you hear it. Other than that, I kind of discount it. Oh, that was a movement in the other room or something along those lines. But for me personally, that small little apartment in Prescott, Arizona is probably the most active. I also learned a lot about EMF there as well. So a lot of things cause EMF. Now this particular location, right outside both the bedroom walls, it was an apartment complex, was where all the electricity came into the building. And in those rooms had really high EMF. So we started learning about EMF, how it causes illness, what type of symptoms, what type of things happen. I also learned they had a fish tank in their kitchen that threw the EMF meter off the chart, which I would have never expected. A little fish tank motor, tiny little thing. Right. You know what I mean? So it was all of these things that came together in this small location that we probably learned the most from, as far as evidence goes. And it's one of my favorite, and I'm still friends with that client. Her kids are all grown now, but she did move out of that location shortly after because it was very active for her and her daughter.
Oh, that's pretty much where you guys got your bones. It was on that first job, and learned what you could from it. So do you use EMF detectors on all of the investigations, or did you shy away from them as time went on?
What we ended up kind of standardizing for our team was, so It's mostly for residentials, but we would do it on businesses in other what we would call fun locations, and those would be like the Birdcage in Tombstone or a museum or a courthouse. Those were fun for us.
Right.
That's what we used to call them. But the residentials we stayed very serious about, because you're talking about people, right? And people are scared. So there's a lot of factors that come into that. There's a lot of psychology. We would go out and do kind of a home study first, right? We would go in there, we would take a bunch of baselines, we would figure out, you know, where's the high EMFs, where's what they're saying the occurrences are happening. Let's say it's in the kitchen, their cabinet doors are slamming. So we would go in there and open and close the doors. We would try to go in and kind of not debunk, but that was part of it. Debunk some of it and then decide where we wanted to focus. That way you're not showing up at a location with 20 people on your team, because we did have a very large team at one point, and we wanted to select the people that we really needed there, right? Because everybody had a specialty. We had researchers, and we all worked together. I was the case manager, so I was dealing with the client mostly, Kale and I. And then we had a team that actually went to the residence or the location and did those tests. We did the EMF. Kale can share a lot more about that because he did a lot more than I did. I dealt with the people. He dealt with the electronics and the physical. But that really helped us eliminate a lot of, back when we were doing it and we were on that team, it was a T.A.P.S team, and T.A.P.S was huge on TV. We would show up to these houses and people are like, "Where's Jay and Grant?" We're like, "No, lady, Jay and Grant aren't coming. It's going to be us. Us everyday Joes are here. You know, Jay and Grant aren't coming with their film crew."
Years ago when they
very
first, and when I got into this, I had never even watched that show. I didn't even know. And they got, you know, when I showed up, he's like, "Oh, we're a T.A.P.S team." I'm like, "Well, what is that?" And he's like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, I don't watch that stuff, man. You know, so.
Oh yeah, I watched it from day one. I loved that show.
Well, that was when they were going into like trailers, you know, and
so yeah, when it was
true.
When it was real.
Right. But yeah, I really liked what we did with our team. The residentials were really personal. We would, you know, ask a lot of questions. Me, I grew up, you don't go in someone's bedroom unless you ask. So I would always ask, "Is it all right if we walk into your bedroom? We won't open your drawers or anything." But, you know, we were trying to be respectful, but also help them. And then one of the key questions we asked every single person where we did a private residence was, "Do you want to know your evidence?" Some people don't want to know. They just want to know, like, "Oh, did you get an EVP?" And we say yes. And they'd say, "I do want to hear it," or "I don't want to hear it."
Yeah.
You know,
so you did allow the residents to be there while you were doing your investigations?
Sometimes. It would depend. We did learn very quickly that sometimes that's a hindrance. It's more of a party atmosphere. They're not taking it serious, you know.
Right.
And sometimes if we'd been to a place and we didn't get anything, we would ask them to come back. You know, we would do it again and have them come in with us. But, you know, we gave them the rules. We had rules, you know. We had expectations of our team members. We had rules. The really simple things like, you know, when you walk in a room, announce, because we've got audio and video in there. So when you walk in a room, "Hey, it's Kale, I'm in the bedroom," you know, starting an EVP session or whatever.
Right.
So to try to help eliminate some of that unknown thing.
Well, the contamination of the scene. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you get a lot of clothes shifting now. We do live in Arizona, so there's not a lot of jacket wearing here. So, but there were times where we would be like, "Hey, if you move, just say, 'Hey, that was Trish, I moved,'" you know, just so that when whoever's reviewing that audio is not thinking it's an EVP and spending 2 hours trying to figure out what it says when somebody shifted their arm, you know?
Right. Oh yeah, because you're gonna pick up the slightest noise.
Right, exactly.
Especially like with the equipment they have now today. I mean, breathing, anything, you're gonna pick it up immediately.
Yeah.
And it throws you.
My other favorite location, which I really wish I could go back to again, because I didn't really get to fully investigate it. Another team we were with had been there several times, but I was unable to attend. But it is Vulture Mine. So that's another one I would have liked to have gone back up to, because our team did get a lot of evidence up there. I did the review of the evidence. I just wasn't at the actual investigation.
Was that the one that was on television?
Yeah, that was
Yes,
that was
yeah.
when we went and filmed with Ghost Adventures. Yeah, that was Vulture Mine.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, you guys can fill us in on all of that as well.
Yeah, we'll talk.
That was actually really. I'll let Kale talk about that story, but that particular weekend they were there, we had one of the most severe monsoons that we had had in years, and they were kind of stuck in the middle of it. To get to Vulture Mine, it is, and you know, I'm from upstate New York, so I understand this, but people from Arizona don't get it. But it's 20 miles on a road with nothing just to get out there. So you are 20 miles in the desert in the middle of nowhere, you know, so there isn't a lot of contamination out there as far as traffic noise and things that normally you can hear when you're outside.
So it's kind of like
you can't even hear an airplane, no airplanes, no helicopters, nothing. It's dead quiet, except for, you know, animals.
But yeah,
that's the one location. Yeah, that's the one location I would like to go back to. The thing was, we had a big thing with our team. We very rarely paid for an investigation. We almost refused. Now, there are some places that would take donations and they would use them towards restoration of a building. So we would fully support that, and we would all donate to that. But there's a lot of places that are famous right now because of television that people are paying, you know, $1,500, $2,000 for people. I would never do that. Never.
Conjuring
because
house,
I cannot. Right. Well, there's other places too now. So I would never personally pay for an investigation. I would rather go someplace that nobody's been.
Right. And yeah, I agree with you. That's the way
I can tell you, the Birdcage in Tombstone is another one. It is so commercialized that I'm just going to say it. They fake their evidence because you have an escort.
We caught them. We caught them doing all kinds of stuff.
Faking.
Wow.
Yeah. So you have an escort with you, and he walks around and does his thing, and I'm like, no, this is, you know, BS.
Yeah, when they take you on a tour and then they point out things and.
Yeah, exactly. This is the speaker. This is not the speaker. We found speakers is what we found, but you know, this is this is that, and I'm like, well, yeah, I can hear the bar next door. So it was so contaminated, and there is a boardwalk there. So right outside the Birdcage, it's a wooden planked boardwalk. So all you hear all night while you're trying to investigate is people walking outside, and the bar outside, and the bar next door, and you know, the partying, the whoops and the hollers, and you can't really get good evidence there.
Right. Yeah. See, we have a lot of locations here that I want to jump on, hopefully this summer, because nobody really reports anything from our area, but we've got so many things. I did a few last summer, but they didn't pan out that great, and so that's why I never posted anything on the channel. But this year, whether good or bad, I'm going to do it anyway. And yeah, I don't have to pay for it, so.
Right.
You know, like I said, I agree with you. Because donation is a different story, but when they're trying to rob you blind for not even 24 hours worth of work, that's not worth it.
Well, I like I said, I think that things are so commercialized. And my own personal theory, because of course, when you're in this field, you start to meet people in different areas, so psychics and mediums and things like that. And I'll tell you my personal experience. If I have to pay for you to read me, then I don't care what you have to say. No offense to anybody that charges, but I just feel like if you're going to give me an instant reading, to me, that's more believable. If you see me and you get nothing, great, you know, whatever. I don't need a reading.
Right.
But, you know, it's that spontaneous, like, I need to tell you this, you know, that I value more than me paying $20. And I have friends that have done that, and I have friends that are like, yeah, if you give me $20, I'll give you a reading. And I'm like, well, no, you know, no, thank you.
Yeah, I don't charge any of my friends either.
Right. I mean, there are a lot of people. So we're diving into like convention work, and I get it. People got to make money. They've got to pay for their journey there. You know, they may even have to pay for their hotels or transportation. So I'm not knocking anybody for doing that. Me on a personal level, I would just rather have a spontaneous than paying somebody that I know $20. Because I feel like if you're gonna get something, you're gonna get it whether I give you that money or not.
Exactly. Especially if they're close by. So I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well, we got an opportunity because we did our own shows for so long. I think we did shows more than we did well, I guess it's probably equal. We did shows and investigated at the same time, but we got to meet a lot of great and very interesting and very knowledgeable people during our various journeys and interviews and things like that. So that was probably the best part of the paranormal, was meeting people that you learn from.
Right. Having the similar experiences, having the same questions. So it's great to be able to, exchange information. That's why I wanted to start this channel up, is that's the exchange of information, and we all can learn from it. Because I don't care how professional you are or how long you've been in it, there's always more to learn. And just like what, Kale was saying about, how he's on the tech side. I was really never on the tech side. So the way he's thinking about, things in like the megahertz and all the, it never dawned on me. My God, he's right. Everything is in a different range, and I just didn't take it that way because I wasn't thinking.
We also, in part of our research too, and we learned a lot from the people that we were working with as well. I mean, we had historians that would go to the town or the city. They'd go dive into their files and, look at everything. And then Kale and I really got into, we'll use Sedona as a great example. So Sedona is well known for its paranormal and other activities, right? Different sightings of UFOs and all kinds of great stuff come out of Sedona. However, when you look at a topographical map, underneath Sedona, it is a giant magnet. And so then you start delving into, that's what Kale and I, I'll be honest with you, there were nights we would sit in bed and talk for hours about this stuff.
Right.
So it's not like it stopped at the door. We would talk and debate and learn from each other and learn from the people we were talking to. We started pulling up all these maps and learning about that. We have an ongoing joke, which is, I'm in Arizona, pretty much anywhere in the United States, everybody thinks they're on an Indian burial ground. Well, guess what? Our going joke is, one, if you are familiar with that culture, they took those places very seriously. And I really highly doubt that many places are on what you would say is an Indian burial ground, because those were sacred and they remain sacred no matter what Americans came in and took that place over. I believe that was still very sacred. I'm sure there's probably some housing developments on some of that land out here for sure, but everybody that would contact us, I think I'm at an Indian burial ground. And I was like, really? So then we got to the point,
I'm like, there must be a shitload of just Indians buried everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
It must be everywhere.
But, there is a lot of the cases where that is probably true. But for us, it became a joke. And then the interesting thing, and then I have to cut out, but the interesting thing for us too was that Trisha that we got from that very first, or the Trisha that we got from that very first investigation, it became a joke. Like, who's going to find the EVP that said Trish? And so I started researching and listening to different actions, right? I would listen to jackets moving, hands moving, someone wiping their face, because I started thinking, because it's the SH sound, that maybe that's, a hand moving together, or a jacket or clothing or pants or shoes, or, so I started listening for that stuff to try to figure out if these were fake EVPs. But the fact of the matter is, sometimes they would get a Trisha and and it's Trisha. And if you know me, I don't go by Trisha.
Right.
I go by Trish.
Right.
So Trish is more of a swish sound that you could make with a jacket. But when you put that A at the end, it's not. So it became a joke, like, who's going to get to Trisha? And they would. There's some that say, where's Trish?
Wow.
Where's Trisha? And I'm like, how does that happen? How do they even know I'm not there? Are you guys talking about me? Like, maybe, I don't know what the answer is to that. All I know is it was it drove me crazy because I was always trying to figure out how they got how that EVP came about.
Right. Yeah, they would and like you said, it's so distinctive. It's Trish where everybody calls you Trish.
Well, I think
Right.
the lady there, the gist of the conversation when I'm listening to it, Trish says, "My name's Trish. My name's Trisha, but people call me Trish." And she said, "My name's Patty, but people call me Pat." And then there was some laughter about that, and all of a sudden you heard Trisha, Trisha. And I
Right.
was like, "What the hell was that?"
It's still to this day since
Oh, I still give
so
her a
much
hard
time.
time. She'll call, and I mean that was years ago. She'll call, and I'll go, "Trisha, Trisha."
Oh
Yeah,
man,
it's not funny. It's
Yeah,
not funny because it freaked me out so bad. It
I'm sure it did.
was scary.
Oh, yeah, it
It
is
really
scary.
was.
Well, they didn't even hear at the house. I was going right after we bought the house and moved in. I'm going up the stairs and I hear my name, Laura, and I'm like, "What the hell?" I
Ooh.
turn around, ain't nobody around. I'm like, "Oh, okay," and I just
You
went in the
do this
house.
long enough, it'll get to the point where you'll hear something like that, and you'll go, "What? What do you want?
Yeah,
I'm busy."
I just blew. I was like, "Oh, okay," and I blew it off. I mean, ain't nobody around. Who the hell's talking to me?
But I'm gonna say this, and then I have to go back in. Unfortunately, for us, really, because we don't investigate anymore, it was definitely a personal decision. You know, we did have children. We do have a daughter that's very sensitive to the paranormal. Our kids have gone through some hell, really. We've had some stuff that we know followed us. And as a parent, we really had to draw that line because it was affecting Kale, and I'll let him tell that story, but it was affecting Kale. It was affecting our children. It affected neighbors, friends. You know,
Right.
it really was something that we had to stop. And it's hard to make that decision because you're on a journey, you're trying to figure it out, you're learning stuff, you feel like you're getting somewhere, and then for you to just say, never mind, we got to stop.
Right.
But I think
It's hard.
Oh
it
yeah,
was
we're
very hard.
I had I was on FM radio. I was traveling all over the country. I was speaking at conventions all over. A lot of good connections to investigate every kind of haunted place you could possibly imagine. I mean, everything was happening, and I just literally just walked away.
Walked away.
Right.
That
Well,
was
you
it.
made.
And
You had
I
to make
mean,
a choice.
it was hard. I walked away from the radio. I walked away from all of it. It was. I'll tell you this story.
It was really a hard decision to make.
Oh, I'm sure it
But
was.
I feel like at the time we made the decision we needed to make. And, you know, it's a very expensive hobby. And I'll be honest, all of our equipment is now completely obsolete, right? So you got thousands of dollars worth of equipment that's no longer going to work.
Well, I'm sure Kale can upgrade it.
Oh, yeah, don't get me
We talk
started.
about it. Talk about it.
I use bare bones, guys. Camera, recorder, flashlight. That's
We
it.
can talk about all that.
So, all right, Trish, I'm glad you could make it for the first part. Like I said, I want to do this in
I
stages.
gotta
'cause you
go.
guys got a lot.
Unfortunately, I gotta go back into work, but I will probably join you guys again in the future. And love you, Laura and
Love you
Raina,
too.
and whoever of my other family is listening. I miss you guys, and I will talk to you soon.
Okay, we'll have you on
All
again.
right. Bye, guys.
All right,
Bye,
don't work
Mr.
too
Kelly.
hard.
Love you.
See ya.
Bye.
All right.
All right.
Let's do
Change
this.
that up. There we go.
Wow, I got bigger on the screen.
Yeah, now we can see your handsome face.
No, I don't know about all that. So just so everybody knows, I never did a podcast, anything like that. I'm a radio guy. So I take that back. I did have an internet radio show, and it grew and grew and grew. And we changed different networks. And then eventually somebody sent one of our shows to, I don't even know how that happened. All of a sudden I had this guy contact me here in Arizona, said, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing FM radio?" And I was like, not really. So I went down and had a talk with him, and he wanted me to broadcast my show on Saturday nights. So it started off like that. I was doing a show every Saturday night. Then it kind of grew. Then before you know it, because my first love is I'm really, really good at audio, and I can mix anything. I can make professional like commercials, radio show openers. I mean, they're pretty good.
What did you think of my
So,
lame intro?
oh, it's okay. You know, we can make you one, but
I mean, it was my first try, guys.
I don't know anything, you know, about video. I don't know how to edit video. This is all new to me. So I've never
Right.
been on a show. This literally is the first time I've ever been on a show with a camera.
Well, there we go.
I'm
We passed
usually
scary.
I'm usually sitting here with the boom mic and broadcasting on FM radio, you know, doing a show. But it wasn't just paranormal. I think, or I don't want to say it like that. It wasn't just ghosts. I started off with doing a show about ghosts, and you'll find out really quickly that you can only do so many shows on EVP, so many interviews with psychics, so many this, so many that, and you're like, what are we going to talk about this week? You know, and I don't know. It got boring. So I was like, I just want to talk about all of it, because growing up with In Search of and all these different shows, I wanted to talk about Bigfoot and UFOs and the Loch Ness Monster. And so it kind of just, it went into like a coast to coast AM kind of thing. And over time, like I said, I was being invited to travel all over the place and speak and broadcast from conventions. So I was doing that. Met a lot of really interesting people, made a lot of really great friends. Was on TV a couple times. Other than that, I didn't get into this to ever be on TV or any of that stuff. It just kind of, it was like Vulture Mine was a place that we used to love. That's my favorite place to investigate was Vulture Mine. And all of a sudden we got a call from a producer who said, "Oh, the people that used to own Vulture Mine, nobody ever investigated there. It was just us." And they said, "Hey, this TV show wants to film there. And they want to know if you'll come because you guys are here all the time." And that turned out to be Ghost Adventures. So I took the day off work. I drove up there. At that time, it was just Zach, Nick, and Aaron. And to their credit, they showed up in a white van with a producer, and that was it. And he was just there to say, "Hey, sign this release." And I will tell you that back then, I don't know what's going on now. I literally haven't even watched that show in probably 5 years. I don't know. But at that time, it was literally just the three of them. And what you got was what you got. And it was totally real.
Right.
I mean, I'm not getting paid by them. I'm not, none of that stuff, but it was completely real. And that was season 4, episode 7, Vulture Mine. I'm sure you can find on YouTube. But what happened that day, it was during a massive monsoon storm. There was a lot of lightning and whatever. And you'll see that on the show. They discussed how all this weather moved in. But broad daylight, you know, there's an old building. It was called the Old Schoolhouse, and another building right next to it called the New Schoolhouse. We have EVPs from 2:00 in the morning of the school bell going bong, bong. And that bell hasn't even been there for 40 years.
Wow.
So
wow.
That old schoolhouse was very interesting. You could stand in there at night. There's no electricity, but you could see the moonlight through the window, and you could see shadows go across the window. It was crazy. I loved investigating there. And there was an old piano, and I told Aaron, I was like, "That piano will play." And he was like, "What?" And so anyway, I wanted him to be in there that night. And sure enough, on the show, you'll hear him say, you know, he does a whole, "The piano just played." And I remember being at home saying, "I told you." So that was pretty fun. But so anyway, getting into this, like I said, I was never really into the paranormal. I didn't know anything about T.A.P.S. I just was part of this team that was going around doing these investigations. And it took me a while until I finally did a lot of my own research and came to the conclusion that, like I said, everything was based off frequency. So for me, building and designing and building equipment for that purpose became my main function. That was all I did. I was really into designing and building some pretty cool stuff.
Right.
And it really benefited me a lot. Now, I think there's just so much different equipment on the market that, I mean, I don't even know what half of it is. Because I haven't even done this in like 5 years. So I can't even imagine that it's just
right. The stuff they have out now, I really don't put any kind of faith in any of it. A lot of people they use the REM pods and all of these things, and pretty much there's another guy that we follow. His name is Kenny Biddle, and he pretty much called it a glorified cat ball because all it does is it lights up, and this and that. And so, I mean, people use these things, they test them out.
I used to talk to the guy that originally designed all that stuff. We used to throw ideas back and forth. I remember when he was first starting out.
Right. So so pretty much everybody, I know all the real investigators, they will use some of this stuff, but it's on, they tell you, it's just for the test. They want to test to see if there's any kind of validity to any of it. But as far as it written in, stone, they won't admit to that because you can't. Just like I said, they use the EVP, the K2 meters. I use one, but I use it for when I'm going around the property first before I start to check for electricity.
Sure.
Any kind of electric, going on in the building or around the grounds. This way, you have that general idea of where it is, so that if you do pick up something, it's going to be that instead of something else.
Well, that's another thing. You see people on these shows walking around. The problem with the shows is I think they bastardize it so much that people get this notion in their head that, oh, if I just do what they're doing on the show, all this is going to happen. Walking around with an EMF meter, it's not going to give you an accurate reading. You have to set it down and let it pick up on the ambient area around it and wait for it to settle. I could take an EMF meter right now and go like this, and you'll see the numbers start bouncing all over the place, especially if you're walking around, because EMF is in the air. So, but for me, getting to the bottom of all the frequency ranges, and then I started looking into, when you really get into the paranormal, I think that's what a lot of people don't do a lot of deep research. People have been investigating the paranormal since the 1800s. They did tea leaf reading. They did all kinds of different things. There was people that, going back to Thomas Edison, was building a device so he could talk to the dead. So I got into all this different research that was talking about instrumental transcommunication and photography, and it's very fascinating to get into the deep roots of investigating and how people did things. And so I think if you could go based upon that and really educate yourself on human speech, EMF, all these different factors that play into investigating, I think you'll be a lot further ahead. But I mean, I've met people that say, "Oh, I've been investigating for 7 years," and they're like, "Oh, I got all these EVPs," and I'm thinking, "Man, you just spent thousands of dollars traveling around, staying in hotels, gas, and everything, and you got some EVPs. What are you gonna do with that information?"
Right.
Are you just gonna? I mean, if you're just out there to collect EVPs, okay. For me, it was a little bit more. I think everybody kind of gets into this to try to find answers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the majority of people that we know. Of course, then you've got, like I said, all of the fakery on YouTube. So it's the big thing is skinwalkers and demons and and all of this stuff. So it's all about the clicks with these people.
Yeah, and unfortunately, as technology progresses, it's becoming harder and harder to tell fact from real.
Yep.
Or real from fake. I'm sorry, but like I said, I don't do the video stuff. I had friends, if anything was questionable on video or a picture, I would send it to them. I was the audio guy, you know what I mean? So I didn't really,
Right. Oh, that's why we
I
hook
like
up
to
with a
learn
lot of
the video.
we have a debunking community that we're all involved with, and there are some guys out there that can nail anything that's fake. It's amazing how they do it.
My radio partner Joe, he would pride himself on the fact that he was, a skeptic. But it got to the point that when you are doing nothing but, and I'm not saying he did this, but you would see a lot of people that would just didn't believe anything, but they couldn't explain to you why your EVP wasn't what you think it is. They couldn't
Right.
tell you why it's fake. They just said, well, that could be this or that. Well, when you can tell somebody and show them, okay, well, this EVP is at 70 hertz. If human speech is this, explain to me how that could be. And you also need to know, okay, what's the frequency range of radio? What's the frequency range of ham radio? There's all kinds of different broadcasts that are out there in the air, but if you can pinpoint it down to be at a certain frequency and show somebody, this is how I know that this couldn't be this, or this, then you got something going for you. I think, you have a little more credibility because you've actually done the research.
Right. So how was it working with Ghost Adventures?
I hung out with Aaron for the day. I love Aaron to death. He's just a straightforward, really nice guy. He's a chain smoker, but I don't know if he still smokes. But I mean, he was just a lot of fun. Zach, not so much. He kind of showed up and introduced himself, and then after we signed our non-disclosure agreements or whatever it was, and came up with the game plan of what we were going to do, he just walked away and just blew everybody off. He would walk 10 feet ahead of us. It wasn't until the cameras turned on that all of a sudden he came alive.
He's your best buddy, right?
Yeah. So Nick and Aaron were really great, down to earth. I had a lot of fun with Aaron. I kind of feel bad because at the time I remember this is when the term metrosexual came out. And I remember we were going to get in the car and drive to a different location because such a big property. And I told Trish, I'm like, I swear to God, Zach had makeup on. She goes, yeah. He's got like all of it. She goes, yeah, it's metrosexual. I'm like, what is that? She goes, well, guys that wear makeup. I mean, he had the lipstick the whole time. I'm like,
oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, earth tones, of course, but I was like, I never really dealt with something like that. But I mean, to each his own, but it didn't take me long to realize the guy was really in love with himself.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, we showed up to the old schoolhouse, and no sooner did we get out of the car and we were walking up the building that we heard a woman scream. And I clear as day heard it. And we all heard it. So you'll see that in the show. He says, we were setting up an interview with Cale Kelly from East Valley Paranormal Society. And he just starts off, roll, guys, roll, because it just went off that fast. And then we heard footsteps. I mean, it was broad daylight. So that place is really off the hook. I really like that place a lot.
Oh, incredible. Incredible. Yeah, because I always look at it this. If it's haunted or there's something there, it's going to be day or night.
Yeah, I don't think it really matters. I think people like investigating at night because it's quiet and there's not so much background noise and you can concentrate more. And people like to use infrared.
Yeah.
They like to walk around in the dark, whatever. I've got most of my best EVPs have been caught in broad daylight. And not even at super haunted locations. They're just your ordinary apartment.
Right.
Or a condo. I mean, I've been to some of the really, really haunted locations across this country, and there's times I didn't get anything. Waverly Hills, I mean, you name it, nothing.
Oh, wow.
I was in Kentucky doing a convention, and I think Joe Chin from Ghost Hunters International, he was there, and Mark and Debbie Constantino and a bunch of other people, and they were like, hey, you want to go to Waverly? We're all going tonight. And it was like $10 a person or something. And I was like, well, yeah, let's go. So I didn't catch anything.
Right. All right, we got a question here. Wendy wants to know if you've ever been to Zach's Haunted Museum.
No. This is long before he got all into that.
All that crap.
This is when they were first starting out. So I know I've heard he's got a haunted museum and he collects things. And no, I haven't. I don't really think I want to.
I don't think you're missing anything. So
I mean, he's like John Zaff is. John Zaff's super nice guy. He's like he's called a haunted collector. And I think that Zach does that. He just buys haunted objects. And I mean, hey, it's a good business model. You're a popular TV guy. Why not get some haunted stuff put in a location and people will go pay to see it? So, hey, I'm not going to wrong anybody. It's capitalism,
Yeah, oh yeah, and that's what that's all about with them guys. Like I said, I think when they first, because I remember when you guys did that program, and I asked you, are they legit? And you said, yeah, at that time they were.
At that time, yeah. I mean, I can only speak to that particular episode because I was there.
Because I've noticed now that, and it's pretty common with all of them, even on YouTube. Once the money starts rolling in, that's where the corruption begins.
Yeah, and, like I said, I was part of that T.A.P.S team, and with Paul and some of the other people were pretty flaky. Paul obviously had his own agenda. He wanted to become famous, so that was his thing, and whatever. So he ended up going onto the show, and I just took over the team. But I'd been with the team for a couple of years at that point, and I just got to the point of doing so many of these investigations. I didn't want to do residentials. No offense. I liked helping people, but it very much was about showing up and, well, when is Jay and Grant going to be here? When's the film crew going to be here? It's like, this isn't going to be on TV. It just, it got so polluted that I just got burned out. And I really wanted to get out and investigate with other groups. Because I don't know everything, and anybody that tells you they do, they're full of it. I don't care who they are, because this field, none of us know. I mean, we don't know what's on that side.
Right.
It is another plane of existence. So, and I do honestly believe that there's a lot of things on that side that we don't understand. And
Right.
maybe some things we're not meant to understand.
Right.
Some things are pretty nasty, and I've dealt with them firsthand. But it wasn't until I've done about 1,000 investigations till finally I got a hold of something negative, and that really was a wake-up call for me.
Do
But
you have any idea where you picked that up or no?
yeah, I know exactly where I picked it up. It was a
Oh.
horrible, horrible location. But I wanted to get out and investigate with other teams, and T.A.P.S really wasn't about that. I used to deal with Amy Bruni. She was the case manager for T.A.P.S. So we had a portal we would log into, and all the different states were there. So I would log into Arizona, and then there would be some cases there that I would follow up on. But they didn't want me investigated. They were like the Mormon religion that thinks they're the one and only true religion. So they were all about, no, we have the best way of doing this and nobody else matters. And I didn't really agree with that. And so I started investigating with other groups, and it just got to the point that I just wanted to do my own thing. So I quit the group, and I just kind of became, I guess you call it, a freelancer. I don't even know if that's a thing in the paranormal, but I just wanted to be free of any team and just investigate with people wherever I could, because that's how I really wanted to educate myself and experience new things. And I really did.
Right.
I'm glad I did that.
So yeah, well, that was the right move. Yeah, because like I said, they were going towards more commercial, and so and I think that ruins it actually.
Well, then it turns out a lot of people don't know what goes on behind the scene. There's a whole, I mean, it's a whole entourage that shows up when they film. Audio trucks, sound truck. I mean, it's crazy. It's literally a whole thing when they go.
Wow.
Giant trucks, all kinds of things. And with Zach, Nick, and Aaron at the time, it was just the three guys just showed up, and they each just had a handheld camera, and that was pretty much it. But with T.A.P.S, what they do is they show up to a location that's broad daylight, and they'll put cardboard over all the windows, and they'll black out the whole place and film all throughout the day, but you think it's at night. And it's a lot of, it's a lot of cut. Let's redo that. Go back up to the top of the stairs, walk back down the stair. It's all just Hollywood magic. But I mean, I can't say that that's what they do now. I don't know. I haven't watched a show in a while. So maybe they got a little more hardcore. I know that for a while on the Travel Channel, they were very much competing with Ghost Adventures. And so maybe they became a little more hardcore. I don't know. I haven't watched a show. So
yeah, I haven't watched any of that stuff in years, because like when I said, like I started noticing that it just something wasn't right. I'm thinking, well, I don't think these guys are legit anymore. So
well, you investigate for so long that you realize it's just not possible to get, every location you go to is off the hook. It's not real.
Exactly. Like I said, like I've been involved in this like 30 years, and I think I've got 4 things in 30 years.
But the average person, that they want a thrill, that's why they tune into that show. They want to see somebody scream or somebody get pushed, or that's why they're tuning in. They're not going to tune in to see a whole show of, well, we didn't capture anything.
So it's, and it's terrible to say. Because I always happen on Ghost Adventures where, throw something, throw something at us. And I used to say, please just hit them with a brick just once, just to scare the crap out of them,
There were some shows that came and went,
terrible,
there was an extreme paranormal where they were cutting things up with chainsaws. And I was like, man, what is happening in this field? That's why it just got to be just ridiculous. And I just couldn't take it anymore.
All right. So what was the best, or actually I should say the best, what was the type of equipment that you guys would use pretty much not even with the commercial side of it, but just your own investigations. What did you guys prefer to use?
Like I said, I'm an audio guy. I really love audio. So for me, it was mainly the audio. That was my go-to. I mean, don't get me wrong, I had a whole security system with 16 cameras and DVRs, and I had all kinds of motion detectors and all kinds of stuff, but the audio, that's where I captured all my evidence. Most of it was audio. I've got a couple little things on video. I've never captured a full-bodied apparition. I've never physically have seen anything. And that's saying a lot because I've investigated a lot of places. People in my family have seen things. I've never even seen a ghost. I've seen doors open and shut. I've seen lights turn on and off. I've seen physical manifestations of things moving, but I've never physically seen any kind of apparition or a ghost. That's the truth.
Okay.
I mean,
Wow.
I have no reason to lie.
Right. Oh, and yeah, and all that time you've been in there,
Yeah, never
that's
saw
actually,
anything.
yeah, that's surprising.
But I think it's like anything else. So something weird happened. So I'm doing all these investigations for a long period of time, and it got to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to go into this place. So when we would get there, I would kind of go off on my own, and I would just walk around, and I would literally stand against the wall in a room, and I would just close my eyes, and I just try to tune in. I'm not psychic. I don't have a psychic bone in my whole body. Nothing like that. I would just try to focus my attention to what was going on around me, to tune in to my surroundings.
Right.
And I started to notice, and this is swear on my life. You can ask Trish about this. So I started to feel these weird things. It got to the point where when I would feel something, it was usually backed up by an EVP. And this happened now there's a Hotel San Carlos and a San Carlos Hotel here in Phoenix. I've investigated both, but this particular location, I can't remember which one it was, but there was supposedly
Excuse me.
the story is there was a madam. Her name was Nancy. She was in this place. I can't tell you. I can't remember how she passed away or how met her demise. But I'm walking through this place, and this was the first time this had happened. I had these. I don't even know how to explain it. It was like an electrical charge went through my whole body, but it wasn't painful or anything. It was just like this whole. And as it went through me, I remember going, "Whoa." And I said, I swear you just walked right through me. Did you want to tell me your name? And clear as day, I have a Class A EVP that says, I'm Nancy. And I was like, holy shit, I felt that.
Wow.
So I started picking up on things. I noticed I could walk into a room and I would feel like this tingling sensation on one side. Now, I couldn't tell you if it was a male or a female or anything, but it got to the point of after investigating long enough, I think after doing anything long enough, you just become better at it. And maybe
Right.
you become more in tune. I never felt these things before because maybe I was never paying attention to them. Maybe it's something that happens to you over a period of time. I don't know. So I was very skeptical about what I was feeling. So I used to tell Trish, even on investigations, I'm like, I'll tell you what, because she was a case manager. When you get a case, I don't want to know anything about. I don't want to know any of the claims. I don't want to know anything. I
Right.
want to test this for myself. So I want to walk into this place and spend 20 minutes and just walk around. And if I feel anything, I want to come out and explain what I feel, and then we'll compare it to whatever the claims were. I'll be damned if I didn't come out and, Trish would fill in the homeowner or whatever. And I'd say, that bedroom up there, that closet is, and then all of a sudden it turned out that the things I was feeling would match the claims in the exact locations in the house. And that scared me because I'm like, well, what is that? So
Right.
like I said, I am not a psychic. I could never tell you if it was a male, a female, a kid. I could just pick up on the fact that something or somebody was in that room.
Right.
And I think it's more the lines of I just noticed that I was sensitive. I
Yeah.
would feel things.
I think
Uh,
everybody has a certain degree of sensitivity.
yeah, and for some people are really susceptible to high levels of EMF.
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, maybe because I'm really into engines and motors, and I work around equipment all day, and I never pick up on high EMF, but some people makes them sick. So I think it's just different. Everybody's different. So people pick up on different things.
Right.
But that was something very interesting that I noticed. And so it made it easier for me, but I would only pick up on that stuff if I really tuned myself into it. But over a period of time of doing all these investigations, I think I just became complacent. And that's why I got out of doing residentials, because it just became like, I would drive, I throw all my equipment in the back of my truck. I drive 3 hours somewhere. Immediately when I get there, I'd walk through and I do a floor plan sweep really quick. Okay, I'm going to put the cameras here, here, and here. And I set up my DVR, and I wasn't taking care of myself and I wasn't tuning in anymore. It just became like a job.
Right.
I'm not saying it wasn't fun. I was becoming very complacent and lazy, because I would just set up my cameras and everybody would do their thing. And I wasn't paying attention to, wow, I should probably take some precautions here. And I just wasn't doing that. And
Right.
so, I don't know, but I could get into that. I could get into that particular case if you want, but you probably have some more questions.
Well, question right here from Wendy. She says she wants to know your thoughts on the amount of activity caught in the UK, MHH, which is My Haunted Hotel, and now at the US location. I don't know if you've ever been to either one.
My Haunted Hotel.
Yeah.
Is that a show?
It's actually there's a YouTube channel. Who is it, Wendy? I forget who it is. One of the paranormal groups go to this place in the UK. They call it My Haunted Hotel. And apparently now there's a location in the United States. So I don't know if you've ever been to either one of those places.
Hotels are one of those things. I think if you really investigated any hotel that's been around long enough, you're going to have activity, only because over the years, there's a lot amount of deaths in hotels, even throughout Vegas. It doesn't matter where you go. You got to think, over a period of time, people have heart attacks. There's drug overdoses. There's probably a couple murders in there somewhere. People trip down the stairs and die. It's like a hospital. Over a period of time, a number of people just die in hotels, whether they die in their sleep or whatever it may be. So I could understand how some hotels could really be active, or certain
one here.
rooms
We
could
have
be
one
active.
here. It's built. I think it was built in the 1800s. It was known as the Utica Hotel. And there's stories of a woman that walks the halls there. That's one place I'd like to check out. I've got to do my research and find out what the full story is. But
Yeah,
I've heard about that
you got to
being
figure
haunted
out,
for years.
is it residual?
Right.
Like that bell I told you about going off at the schoolhouse. That is definitely a residual, an imprint somehow left in time that played itself out from my audio recorder.
Right.
When you think about a residual, it could be, there's a story of a woman that dusts off a mantle all the time that people see. Well, maybe that mantle's not there anymore. Maybe she's walking through a wall that used to be a doorway. You're seeing a residual, some kind of residual haunt that's taking place. It's just a loop that somehow left an imprint in time that a lot of people are picking up on.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you'd obviously have to differentiate between if it's a residual or it's an active issue.
If something's going on, right? And like I said, apparently, according to them, it is active, but they've been called out on some stuff. So now we're like, okay, hey, wait a minute here. We think you're pulling a fast one. And of course, they'd started a big, huge controversy all across YouTube, and the drama.
Well, that's another problem, is when I first started out, this wasn't really a popular thing. So everything was pretty fresh, I
right,
could investigate a ton of places that were never investigated before. Now everything's so saturated, and everybody's watched all the shows, and everybody knows how to fake everything, and everybody, it just gets to the point, every place you go to has just been so over investigated. I mean, if I was a ghost in a place that people were constantly coming to and ask me, after a while, I just tune out and say, just go away.
exactly.
You know what I mean?
You're here again. What the hell?
Yeah, it's like they're charging money. It's kind of like the Velisca Axe Murder House or any other place like that. How many times has that place been investigated? I mean,
Yeah.
it turns into a machine.
Exactly.
And it's just not fresh anymore. It's not new. That's why I was always looking for some place that hadn't been tapped into. And
Right.
unfortunately, the two places that I really loved, one was um, Vulture Mine, another one was the Healy County Jail. And it wasn't a couple of years later that Ghost Adventures investigated Healy County Jail, and I was like, "Oh, that place is ruined." And sure enough, it's completely ruined now. The Vulture Mine, there's some other team that somehow got a hold of that place, and now they people pay to investigate there, and it's just turned into like just a mess. You can pay me to go out there now.
Wow.
It's unfortunate, but they just ruined it, you know.
So as far as your experience at the Vulture Mind, how did that turn out for you? Was it everything
It
you
was
expected, or
I have a lot of incredible EVPs from that location. There's a tree that's there. It's not very tall. They call it the hanging tree. I think it was more of a lower branch where they'd put the noose around your neck, and then they kind of, and then you'd be up on your tiptoes. But and Henry Wickenburg, who the town is named after, there's a whole city out there called Wickenburg, Arizona still. But this tree, I was listening to some audio the other day because you wanted to interview me, and I was going back through a lot of my EVPs because they're all in my Gmail, thank God, because I used to send them to other team members. But I remember saying, would you hang somebody right outside your front door? I mean, who would do that? And then one of the guys say, well, there's a lot of sick people that would. And what's weird is right there, I got an EVP, but it was just, and I remember I sound like a complete idiot because my response was, who's breathing? It's like, well,
right? Yeah, well, that's the first thing I would have thought of too.
yeah, okay, moron. Well, everybody's breathing, but you catch those stupid moments in your life where, why did I ask that question? It's pretty stupid. But there's a place where there's the assayer's office where they used to keep all the gold, and I think they played on the episode. They play one of the EVPs where the guy says, "I bet you that's where they kept the guns, right there on the wall." And we got an EVP that just straight up said, "You're gonna die." So
Yikes!
yeah, it's a pretty interesting area, and at night you can hear children giggling, laughing by the schoolhouse. But I think those are residual kind of energies
Right,
that we're picking up on audio. But the place is just, if you go in the summer, it's all old wooden buildings. And at the time it was all really falling apart, but they since it was an old mine, and I guess a corporation bought it, and they decided they were going to start drilling for gold again and mining. And that's kind of when we stopped going. It changed ownership, and now thankfully the mine itself is kind of off to the side of the town.
right.
And so this mining company saw fit to kind of restore the buildings. So that's a good thing because they were really falling apart. But yeah, it's we did some one time because I thought, it'd be nice to see all these other teams out there and meet with people and network. So we got together, we put out a thing, hey, we want to do a joint investigation. We want to invite all these other teams out, and maybe we could all investigate together, meet each other and network. And I remember I was sitting out in the parking lot, and these people were all standing around in a big circle holding hands. And this is why I said, hey, everybody's got their own thing, but I remember I felt like an idiot because I swear that the lady said, "Do you want to get saved?" And I was like, "What the hell?" You know,
Oh,
yeah, I want to get saved. I was like, I'm good, thank you.
saved
I
already.
walked
Thank
away, and
you.
I'm like, and then it dawned on me. She said, "Do you want to get saged?" I was
Oh,
like, "Oh my god!" I thought she said, "Do I want to get saved?" I'm like, "Who do we invite out here?"
I say, okay, no, yeah, I'll take you up on the sage deal there.
Yeah, so they're all saging each other, and I'm like, well, see, it boils down to, does that work? How do you know that works? There's so many unknowns about this field that
Exactly.
nobody really knows what is on that other side. I can tell you that there's probably a lot of really nasty negative things on this side. There's probably some good things on that side. I mean, some people believe that everything we're dealing with is demons.
Yeah.
Are they? I don't know. I mean,
I
if there's a hierarchy in hell, I know for a fact there's different levels. of demonic entities. Some have a little more power than others. Is that what we're dealing with? I mean, I don't know. I
knows?
don't personally believe that. Only because of some of the EVPs I've had and experiences I've had. I don't believe that they were negative experiences. I think that sometimes people don't even realize they're dead. And that's the truth.
Yeah, yeah, I've
Which,
thought of that myself. Yep.
so when you start really doing your research, and I'm telling you, it can really get deep. People should really look into Michio Kaku did a really good, he's a world renowned physicist. He did a really good program, and it was on M theory and string theory when this first came out. And I think it was on PBS Nova or whatever. But it first started out and it said, this is a land of different things of ghosts and things that people report. And I think they did a really good job of explaining how these different dimensions are like frequencies, and sometimes they collide and they overlap each other.
Right.
And I think this is what we're dealing with. I think that the other side is just it's a parallel dimension to us. And when you think about the world of ufology, and you see on TV or whatever, I've never physically seen it. I have video of a UFO that just it was a light and it just went and winked out. I think they have the ability to hop in and out of these other dimensions. They
Yeah,
can
that's
hop
what I'm
in
thinking too, because they
well,
do disappear so quickly.
and so when you think about parallel dimensions and you think about M theory and string theory, who knows what's out there? You know, you
Yeah.
don't know, and nobody
No.
knows. And so anybody that claims that they're an expert on this or that, nobody's an expert. And that's why I can't express to people enough. When you investigate the paranormal, and this is something I used to tell people when I did presentations, things can, will, and do follow you home. So be very careful.
Right.
And that is an absolute fact. And the problem is you don't know what's following you home.
Right.
And you can say all the prayers you want in the car and you can sage yourself, but how do you know that works? It's just like blessing a house. A blessing's only as good as a person administering the blessing.
Yeah. Well, I've done a few house blessings. So far, so good. I got my fingers crossed.
Yeah. So I have noticed throughout the course of a long time, saging your house does work, but it doesn't get rid of it. I think there's something weird. It's on a molecular level that the sage somehow calms the activity down in your house. Because you'll notice a lot of people will sage frequently. You'll sage your
Right.
house and everything will kind of calm down. And then over a period of time, it gradually comes back.
Right. A question here. Wendy says, could they be us in the future?
Absolutely possible. Why not? I mean,
Good question.
I'm not getting off track here, but there's been a lot of people that have been abducted that have claimed that these beings, sometimes they talk to people or whatever. I mean, I've never had that experience, but they claim that they are from our future and that they were once us. And this is why when you watch a lot of these UFO shows, especially like there's been colonels, generals that have come out to talk about how these UFOs in the 80s were hovering above nuclear silos in the UK, Bentwater, and even in Russia, where they were shutting down the nukes, making them inert. And these beings claim that this is what destroyed them. You know, it's supposedly they're from our future and they're trying to prevent us from doing the same thing again,
All
repeating the
right.
same
Right.
thing. This
Yeah,
is
that's going to
supposedly
be
the sixth incarnation of humanity. And I kind of believe that there's a lot about our past that we don't know. And I think civilization rises up to a certain level and then we wipe ourselves out and then it starts all over. I think this happens over and over and over on this planet. So when you think about these other dimensions,
interesting.
I don't think that anybody really knows what's over there.
Right. No, I mean, or even if we did know, I mean, the thing is how do you prove it?
You're cutting out. I'm sorry. I think I lost you.
Are we back?
Okay, we're back. I don't know what happened.
All right.
See,
Yeah.
start talking about UFOs and the government
Bad
gets
weather
involved,
and
and then
internet
they
issues.
start
Gotta
shutting your
love it.
show down. Ah, it's glitching again.
Okay, apparently I stink because it shut us off. There we go. Okay, actually, the question is, you said that you did have an experience where something did follow you home.
Mhm.
Tell us about that story.
Okay, so this was your normal residential. This is a brand new house, probably 2,700 square foot house. A guy named Jim Boatwright and his wife, very nice. I became really close friends with Jim. He actually ended up joining my team for a period of time. Um, they contacted us. His daughter had an imaginary friend that she called Sasha, and his daughter was about 5, 6. I would say about 6. And she would talk to Sasha on the way to school. She would play with Sasha,
There you go.
Sasha this, Sasha that. And they just chalked it up as, oh, innocent. Our daughter has an imaginary friend. Well, Jim was laying on his bed, on a Saturday, and he's just reading his book. And straight from his bed, he can look straight down the hallway, and there's his daughter's room. Well, she had one of these little rocking chairs, for a kid.
Right.
And she was sitting, Indian style, reading a book. And he said it was like a horror movie, something you would see in a horror movie. He looked up and she was reading, and the rocking chair was going like this really fast in front of her,
Oh, wow.
and nothing was in the chair. And he sat up like, what the hell? And his daughter immediately looked right down the hallway, right at him, and said, Daddy, you scared Sasha. And at that point, he got up and he's like, what the hell? Well, we need to talk about your imaginary friend. And that's when I think it dawned on him that what is going on. And so he contacted us. So the first day I got to his house, first of all, this guy made a whole mess of food and everything. I mean, I total, wanted to welcome us to his house and all this. Very, very nice guy. So I said, if you don't mind, while Trish is doing your interview, Trish would sit down with the laptop and interview him and his wife. I said, is it okay if I walk around your house? And I would like to listen live. So I like to just walk around, not really say anything, but just listen to see if I pick up on things. Like I said earlier, I like to just walk around. So he's like, yeah, no problem. So
Right.
I'm walking up the stairs, and I walked through this spot that it felt really heavy. It was interesting because I'm just going upstairs, and suddenly it felt like the stairs went from this to this, like it just became, and then it lifted up, and I kept walking, and I kind of noted that in my head. Okay, that's interesting. So I go up to the daughter's room, and I to this day, this is why I like listening live. And if you want me to come back, I can get all these EVPs and play them for you, because I like to think that I have I have a really great collection of Class A EVPs that I've verified frequencies and everything on. I go into this room
Oh, yeah, I like that.
and I am getting this tingling feeling. So you hear me on my audio. She has a toy box. So you hear the wood creak, and I just sit there for a second. I say, is there a Sasha in here? And I'm waiting. I'm like, Sasha, do you want to talk to me? Class A EVP. No. And I say, no, you don't want to talk to me? No. Why don't you want to talk to me? I got nothing. So I wait. I'm like, if you don't want to talk to me, I'm going to leave. So then I get up and I leave the room. And as I'm walking towards the stairs, I hear, no, no, no. Stereo in my ears. I was like, I mean, it sounded
Wow.
like it was right in my face. I was like, this breath. And I was like, what was that? I'm sorry if you hear my Great Danes dreaming in there. So I'm like, wow, what was that? So I start walking down the stairs and I hit that spot, and you hear me on the audio say, and I said it really low. I'm like, is there anybody on the stairs? And I got a woman that goes, yeah. I'm like, oh boy. So then I come down the stairs and Jim's like, well, how was it? And I'm like, oh, interesting. So over the course of time, he tells me this little girl, she's a little blonde girl. She wears a white gown or whatever. So through the course of all this research and stuff, I said, well, where did you used to live? And he told us the house. And so we went back and did all this research. Turns out that this little girl died in the pool at that house. in the 70s. She drowned in the family pool that they used to live in. So she must have followed them to this new house because he has these two little girls, beautiful little girls. But so we go home, and now granted, my kids are 16, 15, whatever. They know that we're doing paranormal investigating, but I never tell them, hey, we had this awesome case. We went to this place. They don't know any of the claims or. So I'm just in the kitchen, and my daughter, Kaylin, out of the blue says, Dad? I was like, yeah, honey. She goes, there's a little girl in our house. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She said, I've seen her. Like, you've seen her? She goes, yeah, she was standing right there on the stairs. I said, what'd she look like? She goes, a little blonde girl in like a white dress. And I'm like, oh, really? So I'm like, well, that's interesting. So I'm at this point, I'm intrigued. So I noticed at night, everybody would go to bed and I'd be up and I'm laying on the couch and I'm just kind of watching TV. And it felt like something tapped me on the head. And I got up and I look around, there's nobody there. And suddenly my kitchen light turns on. And so I say, can you please turn the light off? And the light turned off. So all these weird things started going on in my house. Now I'm like, okay, this little girl is now in my house. So I called Jim. I'm like, hey, I just want to see how things are going. He goes, man, it's been really quiet over here. When did you get on those EVPs? Did you go through your audio? And I said, oh, I think Trish and I are going to come out there next week and we'll sit down and we'll go over it. So at the time, my dogs had somehow got out the side gate. I had 3 dogs. I'm sitting on the couch. We're watching TV. And all of a sudden, we have a doorknob, this kind of doorknob where you turn it like this, So I hear the doorknob and the front door opens. So I'm looking like this and the door calmly opens and all 3 of my dogs come trotting in the house. And then the door slowly closes. And my daughter looked at me and she goes, I told you there was somebody in our house. I was like, what is going on? I'm like, what is going on? So after we went back to Jim's house, it's funny because he called me. We left about 30 minutes after we left. He goes, man, as soon as you left, everything's off the hook here. And that was me thinking, okay, so that just really happened. She came to our house for a few days and then went back over there. So that was one case. So he joined me on another case down the road, obviously. Right. It was this apartment, and this lady's name was Susan. I'll just tell you her first name. Really nice lady. She's has an 18-year-old son. They live in this 2-bedroom condo, pretty small place. It looks like it was once an apartment complex, but they've turned it into condos. So we go there and she's telling us all these stories about she had this Irish setter and had another little dog, and this thing killed her dog. And so for me, I'm thinking, okay, here we go. And she starts pulling out x-rays. She goes, no. Her couches sit facing a TV, and behind the couches it's tile. Well, this little dog was laying on her tile floor, on its side. And they heard this blood-curdling yelp from this dog. They turned around and the front legs were going one way and the back legs were going the other way. Something twisted this dog like a candy cane. She rushed the dog to the vet. The dog's spine was broken 3 places. They had to put the dog down. Aww. This thing was now tormenting their other dog to the point that the dog would get up on the couch and put its paws on the back of the couch to look out the window. Something grabbed it by the hind legs and threw it clear across the apartment. This place was crazy. I can't explain to you. The thing was unscrewing the light bulbs on the stairs every night, slapped her across the face, slapped her in the shower, just totally tormenting the family. So I start talking to Susie my first day there, and I do, I walk through the house, like I said, with the audio, just see if I pick up on anything. I didn't hear anything, but I'm standing there. She goes, well, how does all this work? So I said, well, let me go home. Let me go through my audio and see what I got. And let me talk to a couple people on my team, and then we'll go from there. Well, as I'm standing there, and I've never, to this day, I never felt this before. I literally almost passed out. I got so nauseous, I thought I was just going to throw up right there on the spot. I got nauseous, I got dizzy, and I had to grab the chair. I was like, holy smokes. She goes, are you okay? And I'm like, I just really got, clammy. I was like, I just really got sick. And she goes, you want to sit down? And everything in my body said, you need to leave. Nothing told me that. It just, I had this really strong feeling that you need to leave.
Right.
I said, yeah, let me, I'm going to go sit in my truck. So I went outside, sat in my truck for about a half hour until it finally went away. I never told her about this. So I went home and I just chalked it up as maybe I wasn't drinking enough water or something. I don't know. We came back and did her investigation. Through the course of me running cameras, the next door neighbor comes out. And this guy's like from Boston or something, typical loud guy, he's pretty cool. He's a hockey fan. He's like, man, you invest, I'm going to use some language only because you have to with this guy. He's like, there's some shit going on in my room, man. I don't know what's going on. I got this dark figure and whatnot. And he goes, I try to get out of my house, open up the door and say, get the fuck out. But he doesn't want to leave. He just hangs out and he torments me and stares at me in my sleep. I got to sleep with the TV on. I'm like, what? Really? So, this is a next door neighbor. So come to find out her son's room and this guy's room share the same wall. So whatever this thing is traveling between the places.
Right.
Well, her son starts acting weird. And then Susie's acting weird. And so over a period of time, Susie says, I really like to get the house blessed. Okay. What religion are you? Whatever. She wanted to get somebody from the Catholic Church to bless her house. So I get on the phone. I start calling Catholic churches. Nobody would bless this house. I don't know if you've ever tried to get a house blessed for somebody.
It's very difficult through the Catholic Church.
They're like, are you part of our parish? And like, no, I'm not. This family just needs help. Well, we don't come do that. And besides, priests don't bless houses anymore. We send the deacons to do it. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And so I'm just going to throw it out there. I really a big skeptic about psychics. I'm not saying they don't exist. When you're in this field long enough, it seems like every other person is a psychic.
Exactly.
And they'd come up with these claims and I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. So this lady came over. She was part of our team. She drove down from 2 hours north. She just wanted to walk through the place. She walked through the place and came out and said, I'm not coming back here. I was like, why? She goes, I don't even want, there's something really bad in this place. And I don't even want to think about it. I want to talk about it. I just need to leave. I was like, well, that was interesting. So she left and I'm trying to get this place blessed. This thing. Now, you remember when you would call somebody's house and their answering machine it was a little box and it had a light that would blink and you could hit the button and you could leave like a memo, like you could record, hey, I'll be home from work at 5. I'm going to the grocery store. And then when the person came home, the spouse or whatever, the little light would be blinking and you could play their message. It was a little cassette tape or whatever. This thing was leaving its own messages on her recorder. And I am not kidding. I recorded it. I ran it through my audio software. I sped it up. I slowed it down. I played it backwards. I couldn't figure out what language it was. But the one thing I did pick up on was it'd say next message left at whatever time. It goes, Susie, Susie, Susie. And I was like, what the hell? It was just leaving these really nasty messages. It figured out that how to torment her, I guess. So I'm at home. It's our wedding anniversary. So we're going to go out for dinner. So it's like 4:00 in the afternoon. I get a call from her son and he says, hey, can you guys come over here? It's really bad right now. So I look at Trish. She goes, yeah, we can stop by. So we stop by and they have 2 couches that face each other. Well, as soon as I walked in this place, it felt heavy. And I'm not kidding. It was just really heavy. And maybe it was just me that picked it up. It felt like really muggy. I don't even know. It just it reeked of like negative energy.
Right.
And we sit on the couch and I'm watching her dog, and I think dogs can see. Yeah. Dogs already see into the infrared and so do humans actually. People actually see into the infrared out of the corner of their iris, which is why the average person might explain how they see shadows dart out of the corner of their eye. You might see something and then you turn because we see into the infrared out of the corners of our eyes. So I'm sitting here looking at this dog, and I'm watching this dog looking up the stairs, looking this way, looking up the stairs. It was watching something. And I was like, what is going? And so they're sitting side by side. And I swear on my life, I'll raise my right hand. I watched this happen in front of me. Susie's looking at me, and suddenly she goes, and she's got this, disgusted look on her face. And she looked at her son and said, "You're a piece of shit. I should have aborted you." Oh, all this. I was like, and her son's looking at her like, what the heck? And this is the nicest lady. She would never do this. And he's just looking at her like, what is going on? I mean, the nasty, horrible stuff. I was just waiting for her to start drooling or something. And then as soon as that came on, she did this and she's like, what's going on? I was like, holy shit. I was like, what? I just watched this woman go into a partial possession right in front of me. I'm like, we got to get you some help. And I didn't know how to help this lady. I'm like, I can't find a church. I'm not an expert.
Right.
And this is when I was like, this is a problem when you do residentials. You come across cases that, what are you going to do when you can't help somebody? And I always was able to help somebody. And I was finally faced with this situation where I didn't know what to do.
Right.
And I've been investigating for a long time, but this was above my pay grade. This is something I'd never dealt with. And out of the 1,000 investigations I have done, I'm just throwing that number out there, I have never dealt with a negative thing like this. And so we ended up leaving. And so we went out for dinner, and I'll be damned if I'm completely sick. You remember how I explained how I got nauseous and clammy? We're sitting there trying to eat dinner, and I am just sweating. I'm nauseous. I have to go in the bathroom, put water on my face. And I came back. I told Trisha, I'm like, man, I am just, something is really screwing with me. I'm trying to drive home, and I'm not kidding. Long straight road, and the road was going like this on me.
Right.
I was having a really, really hard time. And this followed me all the way home. And we were about to pull in the driveway. Now, the people that moved in across the street, it was a black family, really super nice guy. And he told me he was a Pentecostal minister, and they were starting a church or something. And I told Trish, I said, I'm not going in the house with this. She goes, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to go over and talk to the neighbor. 9:00 at night, I went over and knocked on his door. He answers the door in a wife beater and white boxers. And I explained to him what I did, kind of. Mm-hmm. And I said, man, I really need some help. And he goes, he didn't even question. He goes, come on in. So I came in. He put some oil on his hands, and he said, hold your hands out. As soon as he touched my hands to pray for me, it was gone. I mean, immediately just. And
wow.
So after that, I'm like, wow, this is something. So over the course of another week or two, things started happening in my house. So now I'm laying in bed, I'm sleeping, 2:00 in the morning, I hear a big boom, and my daughter screams bloody murder. I jump out of the bed, I go running down the hallway. She comes flying out of her room, and she said something grabbed her by her ankle and yanked her right out of the bed while she was sleeping onto the floor.
Oh no.
My other daughters started claiming they were seeing a large dark mass in the house.
Right.
I would hear something came flying up the stairs, sounded like an elephant. I thought it was going to bust my door, and it was like boom, 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 boom. And I was like, what the heck? It just started getting really bad.
Right.
And this was such a negative thing that it started messing with me. And I noticed that the more that I was trying to get Susie help and get a blessing for her house, the more this thing messed with me. There's 3 different levels. There's 3 different levels of a demonic haunt, so to speak. So I call it oppression. So oppression is when you have this negativity in your house, and then you get what I call infestation. It's like one roach finds the food and all the other ones come and start feeding off of it. Now you have multiple things in this house that are just reaping havoc. And this is also the time where people, once they hone in on this individual, they start becoming depressed, they start drinking, and they might even commit suicide.
Yeah.
And of course, the third is possession, which I think is extremely rare, but I think it happens. I also believe that sometimes these entities will latch onto people and just stay with them and just feed off of them. I
Yeah.
think they feed off their energy, and they may be with them for a number of years. I think we all know those people that, or we've met those people that just have this negative aura. Like, you're just like, God, just get away from me. They're just always negative, or they're depressed, and I think that happens a lot. But with Susie, I think the oppression had set in so much she wouldn't even leave her condo. And we tried to get her, hey Susie, why don't you guys come over and we'll barbecue? And she'd say, yeah, okay, yeah, we'll do that. And then they wouldn't show up. And I called, and her son said, well, we got about halfway there, and my mom got really sick, and we had to turn around and go home.
Oh no.
This thing was trying to keep her away from me and
Yeah.
started messing with me. So over a period of time, I noticed that I was becoming depressed. I was drinking more. I was negative. And then it just dawned on me that, man, I am dealing with something that's why I can't express to people, you are really messing with something that is beyond comprehension. To not be able to really understand or see what it is I'm messing or what I'm dealing with,
Right.
but it's now tormenting my kids. It's in my house. How do you get this out of your house? Everybody thinks, oh, just sage. You get a psychic, somebody over there. It's not that easy. It's really not. So I ended up having to get baptized. I literally, it was a whole ordeal that drug out for months. It got to the point where I called Susie to see how she was doing, and she said, which I don't believe it was Susie talking to me, because Susie was always super nice. I mean, really a beautiful
Right.
lady. She just said, I don't want you coming to my house anymore. I was like, Susie, what are you talking about? She goes, it just seems like every time you come over here, it gets worse. And I think we should just call it good. And I don't want to talk to you again. And she hung up the phone.
Wow.
And I'd been dealing with this lady for months. And this was the first time in all the years I've been investigating that I felt horrible. I couldn't help this person. Well, what am I going to do? And it took me months more to get rid of this thing. And it was after that I just kind of I stepped away. I said I stepped away from all of it. That was the last
that's scary.
It was terrifying. And so for people to say, oh, demons aren't real, I don't know if it was a demon. I have no idea. I don't know what this was, but it was strong enough that I don't believe it ever possessed a human soul, because I think the average spirit running around, they can do little things. They can open doors. They might be able to do some EVPs, move a couple things. But when you're talking about something that can kill an animal, throw things across an apartment, yank a physical person out of a bed in the middle of the night, when it starts messing with your own kids, it's on a whole nother level at that point.
That's when you have to change it up and take care of business.
Yeah. And I was like, who's to say this isn't going to happen again?
Right.
So
actually, I have a niece that had a similar experience at a house that they lived in. And from the day that they moved in, actually, because it was really weird, because in the basement there was a singular room in the center of the home, and it was octagon shaped, and there was markings on the floor.
Oh, wow.
So they would never go in that room in the basement. They would just run down there, get what they had to get, and get the hell out of there. They didn't like going in the basement. And then from day one, my niece started having issues with depression.
Mm-hmm.
And then weird things were going on. And then a nephew of mine went there to go visit and stay with them for a little while. And a lot of stuff happened. Well, actually, in each part of the house, they saw an old woman walking through the kitchen.
Yep.
There was a little boy that used to like to sit on the dining room table. And then when you would make your beds upstairs in the bedrooms, after you got done, you'd go back up there and they would see little footprints on the beds. But the longer they lived there, the worse it got with my niece as far as her depression went. So whatever was there, I think, was feeding off of her. And they did have a paranormal team go there and investigate. And they did it when my sister-in-law and the kids were at home, and they videotaped everything. And he says, well, I'm going to be honest with you. There is something here. Do you want to see the tape? And my sister-in-law goes, no, I'm putting the house up for sale. So she never found out what it was.
This, can you see this? This is Nate Zimmerman. This is her son.
Okay.
Okay. So I was just curious a few months ago. I thought, well, how are they doing? Then I found out. You read that? Let's see.
Happy birthday. I miss you every day.
Her son committed suicide.
Oh.
That's another level.
Oh, yeah, it is.
I don't know what happened to her. Man, I just got crazy chills through my whole body. It's
oh, poor kid.
That is a case where I'm surprised she didn't go before him. But I truly believe that this entity did that.
Wow.
I believe that he drove him to that point. I couldn't believe it. I don't know where she is or where she ended up, but that's real. And that to me, that is enough that I was like, I'm done.
You were done.
I'm done. I mean, I'd done all the investigations I could possibly do. I'd done all the research. I think I probably answered every question I had. I kind of came to a conclusion that based upon different EVPs I had, that I kind of have an idea of what happens after we die or why some of these people are here based upon other things that I've read or studied. And I think that's that's why people get into this field. I think the biggest question in life is what's next.
Yes.
And that's why I think people are doing this. But it dawned on me that I need to start paying attention to, I'm spending all my time focused on death when I should be paying more attention to living. And that was the truth. When you find yourself totally engrossed in this and you're focusing all your energy on the dead,
right,
you should be focusing it on living. Yeah. You're going to find out soon enough. We all will.
Oh yeah.
And it's not like it's some positive thing. When you're dealing with investigations all the time, it wears on you. Because a lot of the cases and a lot of the stories, they're very negative, of a negative nature. They're they're murders, they're deaths, it's not like it's some positive thing. And I do believe that some of these entities, sorry, like I said, I don't believe a lot of them even know that they've passed on. I have an EVP of a woman that I say, I can't remember what the gist of the question was, but something along the lines of, well, how exactly did you die? And the EVP said, I'm completely dead. It was like the person just realized that they're dead.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy. And I think sometimes you get EVPs that seem playful or fun. I really believe that it's like a parallel dimension. Who's to say? I mean, none of us really know. Who's to say you go to bed, you have a heart attack, and you wake up and you think it's just another normal day, but you're dead.
Right.
There was a movie, I think, with Nicole Kidman. It was a really interesting movie. I think it was called The Others. Have you ever seen that movie?
No.
You should watch that movie. And it's her and her two kids, and they're in this house, and they think that they're dealing with a haunted house.
Right.
And they go along with their life day to day to day. And it isn't until the end of the movie that they realize that they're the ones that are the ghosts.
Oh, I'll be darned.
Yeah. They realize that they're the ones that are dead. Kind of like that other movie with Bruce Willis, where he plays a psychiatrist.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that one. Yep.
And he's, counseling this young boy, and then he realizes at the end that he's the one that's dead, and that the boy is actually a medium.
Yeah.
That can see dead people.
Yeah, that was
The Sixth Sense, I think it was called.
Yeah.
But see, there's all these, who knows, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to find out just like everybody else, but how many EVPs do you need to have? How many gadgets are there? There's just so many different, I see, like I said, the audio for me, I captured so many things on audio, and especially designing and building my own equipment was a lot of fun for me. I like doing that. I like taking it out in the field, uh, testing it to see if it worked. A lot of device. I had a lot of people hit me up. Hey, build me one. I want to buy one. I want to buy one. And maybe at some point I could have probably done something with that.
Right.
But I didn't get into this field to make money, to be famous. And it seemed like the more people that I met out there, everybody was trying to get themselves on some kind of show or get their own show. Or I was like, man, you people are in this for all the wrong reasons.
Wrong reasons. Yes.
So, and you meet a lot of those people that, in the field that are solely about that. They just want to become famous. So, here's another investigation another. Do you know who they are? Well, let's see.
No, I don't think
That's
so.
that's me with Mark and Debbie Constantino. They
Okay.
used to be. They called themselves EVP experts. They were on Ghost Adventures all the time.
Oh,
Well,
okay, maybe yes. Maybe I've seen them. Like I said, didn't watch that often, but yeah, I think I know.
yeah, Mark.
Excuse me.
Mark shot Debbie and shot himself.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, murder, death, suicide. Andrew just said it. When you talk to Nick from Ghost Adventures, he stepped away for a while because he was having issues in his own home. He was having something that was tormenting him and his family.
Right.
Zach was aware of it, and Zach was putting him in situations that Nick was uncomfortable with. They did some kind of funeral home. He kind of pressured Nick into sleeping or laying in the cold storage. He was just tormenting Nick. He wasn't taking it seriously. And that's why Nick left, because he was
Oh
having so many things going on in his house, and he just had a new baby. And he was like, man, this is not cool.
no,
I think
dangerous.
there's a lot of these kinds of things that happen, and people take it for granted or they don't pay attention to it. And then it seems like the more that you meet people that have been in this field a long time, they're tormented. And some
Right.
of them do take their own lives. And I mean, these are all real stories. I knew Mark and Debbie pretty well. And I know a lot of these other people. I've interviewed Ben Hansen. I've investigated with them. The Booth brothers, Christopher and Philip. I'm really good friends with them. They're documentary filmmakers. Man, I've interviewed so many of these people that are on TV, and when you really get down and talk to them off camera and off air about some of the things that are going on in their lives, they all have really bad stories.
Yeah.
And I'm to the point with Zach that I would not, and I know this sounds hokey and all that, but I really would not doubt that either something has happened where he's kind of, I don't want to say it because it sounds so stupid, but he sold his soul, or he's done something that has made him immune to reaping the repercussions of what he does. All the provoking and things he does and the negative places he goes, I find it absolutely impossible that something hasn't taken place to shake him out of that.
Yeah, because he's done some bad stuff.
Oh, he surrounded himself with all kinds of just negative, demonic crap. He's got a basement in his house that he collects torture devices and all. He calls it the what does he call it? He was telling us about it. The dungeon. He calls it the dungeon in his house, and he has all this crap down there. It's. I think some of these people have just completely sold themselves out. Kind of like,
yeah, maybe he did make a deal.
kind of like rock stars. You see a lot of these rock stars, they're famous. They turn into drug addicts, alcoholics. I think that and some of that is just the partying gets caught, they catch up to them. But I think a lot of this is just the negativity,
Right.
Of being surrounded by nothing but negative stuff all the time. And you start doing drugs and start drinking and just go down a horrible road. So I just got the point. I'll gladly do interviews all day, and I probably would still go on investigation, but I don't know if I'm really going to get so involved into it like I did.
Right.
I mean, I miss it sometimes, but then I have to remind myself why
What
stop doing
happened?
it.
Right. That's the thing.
And I got back to my first love, which is ufology. I really, there's something there that it's just always fascinated me, and it's pretty harmless. I haven't been abducted yet. So, I've been able to interview Travis Walton. He lives 2 hours north of me. I was going to go up and have lunch with him at some point. I never did do that.
Right.
But, yeah, I don't know. I have all kinds of good stories if you have any more questions about anything.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, actually, I'm going to let them ask you some questions.
Okay.
I got to step away for just a quick second. I'll be right back.
No problem. I'll read
So
the
guys,
screen if
ask
they pop up.
away.
I didn't even know Zach had a van. Those guys are they're interesting. I know Zach's got a whole new crew now. I like I said, I stopped watching that show. I think all of them over a period of time they start selling themselves out and faking things only because they have to keep the ratings going, right? So kind of like sci-fi with ghost hunters, blacking out all the windows and faking things. I know when we went and investigated the bird cage in Tombstone, Arizona, I met a really good guy down there. His name was JD. So we were in the OK Corral, walking around with flashlights one night, and this cowboy pops his head up over the wall, and he's got this hat on. And he goes with the flashlight, and he goes, "What are you guys doing over here?" And we explained to him, "Well, we're paranormal investigators." And his exact words, "No shit. Oh, you got to come over to the police station because it's haunted as hell over here. Get your stuff and come on over." So the Marshall station, sorry. So we packed up all our stuff, went over to the Marshall station. I got some really great EVPs in there. And after that, the guy's name is JD. He took us down in the basement, and down in the basement, they have the actual hand-drawn maps of Tombstone drawn by Wyatt Earp himself. And I got to see all those. But I was telling a story about Tombstone. But JD and I became good friends. He gave me his own personal cell phone number. And so anytime I wanted to go down to Tombstone, I would text JD, "Hey, I'm coming down." And he would let me into the Boot Hill Cemetery. Any building I wanted to get into, anytime he would open the door and let me in. That was pretty cool. So yeah, I used to go down to Tombstone all the time. I didn't see any questions.
Nobody's put any questions out there?
I've been able to do investigate bars, just all kinds of, that's one of the cool things. Over a period of time, I was able to really get into some really neat places that would never, to this day, they don't allow anybody to investigate there. But I think it was just because I was doing this so long that I gained people's trust and they would let me into these businesses.
That's great.
Restaurants, all kinds of places. I think we were the only paranormal team. There's a base down in Sierra Vista called Fort Huachuca, and they do all the audio surveillance across the United States. And it's a pretty secret base. They have a whole underground facility there. I was able to go investigate this base.
Wow.
We had people on the base that were reporting. It's an old base. It goes back to the turn of the century. But there was people on the base that were reporting activity. And so we were able to go into some of these locations. We had a military escort, of course, that joined us, but we were able to go into a lot of buildings and different things, offices that they normally would never allow.
Oh, well, we got a question here from Mike. He says, "Have you ever heard of Bob Uhouse and the UFO circuits?"
No. There's a lot of people I'm sure I've never heard of.
Oh, and then we
I mean, that to me, it's so fascinating. I believe that when you talk about ufology, I think these beings, I think they've been here since the beginning of time. And when you read some of the Emerald Tablets, for example, there's a guy, Billy Carson. You type in Billy Carson into YouTube. He talks a lot about the Emerald Tablets. And going back to these tablets explain Atlantis and these different entities that were alive at that time. And according to the Emerald Tablets, our DNA was altered. And they pretty much created us. So when you go back and read these tablets, you realize that the flood story and the Moses story, these stories have taken place over and over and over, and the names and dates and places have been changed throughout history. It's extremely fascinating, but I think these beings have always kind of been here, and I think they're like the stewards of the planet, and they watch us. And that's why they're pretty much known as the Watchers.
Yeah, I always say when people say they see a UFO and they talk about they're going to stop by or invade, I go, no. What is going on is they fly by, they wait, and they go, yep, still stupid, and they keep going. I said, because we're not ready for it yet.
Kale, would
Wendy has a
you?
question.
Yeah, would you never go back into spirit research again? Or are you still doing research on? Yeah, I really am. I like UAPs. I'm not saying I would never go back into. I mean, I really enjoy speaking on the paranormal and helping people. I think that's really important. I think people, before they just grab an audio recorder, because the biggest question I had when I used to travel around and speak on frequencies and all this different thing, I had a whole presentation I did just based off frequency. And it was pretty much like a ghost hunting 101 class, what to and not to do. And one of the first things people would always tell me is, what audio recorder should I buy? And it dawned on me that these people are probably going to buy an audio recorder and go home and start recording in their own house.
Right.
So I was like, man, I really got it. That's why I think it's so important to educate people.
Oh, yes. Because
So they don't end up being the next Nate Zimmerman.
Number one rule, never investigate where you live.
People do it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I used to have people tell me, well, Ouija boards, this and that. I think the difference between it, they're like, well, how's a Ouija board different than EVPs? I said, because when you do a Ouija board, you're using a planchette and you're asking something to come through your body to move that planchette. You're inviting something into yourself.
Right.
And I think that's not only that, an EVP session is kind of along the same lines, but you're not asking something to come in through you, but you are opening a door, so to speak. What comes through that door, you have no idea. It's like a seance. It's not really any different, minus the candles. But
yeah. Let's see. Wendy has here, Kale, any thoughts on ancient Egypt, the Mayans, and the similarities in the two cultures?
Absolutely. So in the Emerald Tablets, they talk about Thoth. Thoth was, let me pull up a picture of Thoth. Thoth was ancient Egyptian. He was also known as Thoth the Atlantean. And he has his own book called the Book of Thoth. Let's see. And you can research into that. This is Thoth. You might recognize that. Thoth the Atlantean was, he was the knowledge bringer. And he had, of course, it's all for show, but he had the head of an ibis bird. The ibis bird has a long beak because the symbology behind that was the ibis bird digs its beak into the mud to bring the nutrients up. So to bring things to light. And he was the bringer of light. And according to the Emerald Tablets, it goes into detail how they built, how he was tasked with building the pyramids. And they were actually power plants. And he was sent across the world this is after the Great Flood. So it goes into, when you read the Book of Gilgamesh, the Book of Gilgamesh is pretty much the story of Moses. But it talks about after the Great Flood, how these beings came here to restart humanity and how they can be seen, their presence and their place can be seen all throughout the world. That's why you have pyramids in South America. They found pyramids in China. They're all over the planet. So yeah, just do some research. I mean, it's a fun path to go down. It's amazing to look at our ancient history, but you can type into YouTube Thoth the Atlantean or the Book of Thoth. You can also that's Thoth. You can also watch some videos on the Emerald Tablets. Billy Carson goes into great detail about the Emerald Tablets. He's a wealth of information. So yeah, I suggest everybody go onto his channel, and I think it'll blow your mind. You'll be like, wow.
I think so, because I've never heard of the Emerald Tablets.
The Emerald Tablets, they're just all these ancient texts that have been discovered,
Wow.
Yeah. So supposedly the Sphinx, there was a chamber underneath the Sphinx. I think certain government agencies, they know all the information, but they keep it all from the public. There's a lot of
Right.
things. I think they know the whole story of creation and all of it. I think they know about aliens, you name it. You're starting to see a lot of it come out on the news.
Oh, yeah. Now it's amazing how much we hear about it.
Yeah,
Wendy
now
wants you
they're
to
coming
spell
out, and
that.
I think that's because something is coming or something's going to come to light, and they're trying to prepare people for that.
I think so too. Wendy wants you to spell the name of that. Was it Thoth?
THOTH.
You had it right, Wendy, because she's going to look it all up. Wendy is my research gal. She's she gets all into that.
Yeah, Thoth was the Egyptian god of writing, wisdom, and magic. He was associated with order and justice and was an advisor, mediator to the gods. Patron of the scribe, his female counterpart was Sisat, goddess of writing and keeper of books. Thoth created language, and she gave him words to the people. So supposedly Thoth is the one, and he's known by several different names. And when you look at different civilizations, they all talk about this man that came and showed them and taught them how to live. But when you look back in time, I'm telling you, the more research you do into that, it really is so fascinating. And then you realize that everything you think is real is totally different.
Ah. Well, definitely we're going to have to look into that and check it all out. That's
Yeah,
just
the
a whole,
Emerald
like, a whole nother
Tablets.
show.
You could start with the Epic of Gilgamesh. There's a lot of books that were left out of the Bible. That's a whole theology interview that I gladly do. But Book of Judas, Book of Mary. There's tons of books. People's idea of Judas is completely wrong. I think their idea of Jesus is completely wrong. But all these things are written in tablets and have been documented. And I think the
Right.
church keeps a lot of this stuff secret.
Oh, yes, they do. They want you only to know what they want you to know. I do
Absolutely.
believe that.
Absolutely.
That's because, people ask me, because, I am a minister, and they'll say, well, what, denomination? And I say, well, I'm pretty much independent, because I believe there's a truth in all religion, and we have to be open to all of that truth.
When you realize that the King James Bible, when you realize that these books were put together in order to control people.
Yes.
That's pretty much what it was.
Yes.
They didn't want people to have free thought. They wanted them to obey, to be good little citizens, and to go along to get along. And they wanted people to pay money to the church. And the church, the Catholic religion, holds all the secrets. They have more riches than any country. I think they probably have more wealth than anybody in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And they know everything. I'm telling you, they know exactly what they're doing. But what's fascinating is the more research you do, you realize, looking at old descriptions of that they find in petroglyphs and stuff of elongated skulls and all this, and then you look at the Catholic religion and how the Pope has this hat. They know that this is all based around this alien civilization that was once here. They know this. It's all. Anybody wants to find me on Facebook, feel free to message me, and I'll send you some interesting documentaries and things you can research and read. I love that stuff. It's fascinating.
Yeah, like I said, we can, do another series right on here, and you could just go right on it and have people ask you questions.
I've done, I have so many stories about the paranormal and cool places I investigated, and I mean, we didn't really get into a lot of that, but I mean, I'll come on anytime you want.
Oh, that'd be great. I think we probably should let you go now. We've been on for a couple hours.
Okay. Yeah, it's 7:00 here, so thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming on. I'm sure everybody really, really enjoyed it.
I hope
I said,
so.
we'll make up another date, so then when Trish will be on too, and then you guys can tag team all of us, and everybody can get their questions ready. We'll set up a date, and we'll do this again.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
Wonderful.
Obviously, I don't have my own YouTube channel or anything. I thought about starting a podcast back up, but I guess now it'd be probably video. I don't know.
Hey,
it's a lot of work, and I'm pretty anal about things. So obviously I'd want to do tons of research, and I I can tell you that I know what it's like to have to try to set up guests and plan, and it takes a lot of your time, a
Yeah.
lot of your energy, and having co-hosts or whatever, they tend to flake out on you. They don't show up, and so you have to juggle a show by yourself, and then you'll have guests that don't show up or they ghost you. And I'm just telling
Been
you, my hat
there.
is off to you, and I have a lot of faith that your show is going to be great. And if you ever need help, let me know. I'll gladly jump
I'm
on.
always gonna need help. Like I said, this is all new, and I'm so grateful for everybody that shows up. And I had
I'll
a
gladly jump on anytime you need a co-host or something.
yeah, I'm gonna hold you to that because
Yeah, no problem. No
we'll see
problem.
what happens next Saturday.
That sounds great. Just let me
So,
know.
all right, guys, thanks for all joining in. And like you said, if you want to look up Kale, he's on Facebook. Oh, and I want to ask you, Kale, is it okay?
Actually, I think it's under Christopher Kelly
Yeah, you
with a
have it
K.
under Christopher Kelly.
Yeah, I think it's under
So you're gonna
Christopher
look for
Kelly.
Christopher Kelly on Facebook if you want to check out his page.
Yes.
The EVPs that you had already sent me, is it okay
If what?
people can listen to them?
You can play them right
If
now
I
if you
could
want.
post some of the EVPs that you'd already sent
Oh,
me.
yeah, yes. Some of
This
those
way they
things I
can listen
sent you
to
are
them.
like radio openers and stuff, so you might want to sift through them.
Yeah, I'll sift through it because a few of them they wouldn't work. But the
Oh,
ones that did
I
come
only
through,
sent you a few. I can send you more. I'll send you some
yeah, I
EVPs.
could post them
Absolutely.
so they could check them out.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you guys coming on. I had a great time, and maybe someday I'll make it out to Arizona, and you and Trisha could take me, take me
Yeah,
places.
it would be kind of fun. Maybe do a whole show on EVP analysis, and we can go through. Maybe we can walk people through how to do a deep dive into your own EVPs to verify that they are truly what you think they are.
Right? Actually, I'll tell you, the only one I have one that's documented, but the problem is I got it on a cassette tape.
Oh, the old school way.
That's how I call it. Yeah, that's what I was using, a cassette tape and a Polaroid.
People don't
And
realize people have been investigating long before ghost hunters came on.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Been doing it a
You
long
know,
time. So I'm
back
trying
in
to
the
figure out how to
day,
transfer it.
they used to take a dial radio and they would sweep it back and forth and ask questions, and
Yes.
voices would
Yeah,
come
that's what
through the
like,
static.
yeah, the AM radio.
So I have tons of EVPs doing, well, I call them box sessions. I have one of the original, when I started looking into instrumental transcommunication and that whole journey, there was a guy named Frank Sumption, and Frank was known for making Frank's box. And Frank made these radios. There's only a few of them in existence. You could just type into Google if you want, Frank Sumption, if you want to go down that rabbit hole. But these radios are pretty much like what you would call the SB7, PSB7, or whatever it's called. I think a lot of people call them spirit boxes, or I don't even know, spirit radios. There's so many
Spirit
different ones
boxes now, yeah.
I have one of the original ones that I modified. We call it the Shack Hack, and it was just a small AM FM Radio Shack radio, and I went and modified it so it would just sweep. I removed the antenna out of it. I'd hook it up to an external speaker, and that was before anybody was even doing that. And man,
Oh,
I
wow.
have some
You need to pull that out so we can see that.
I have some really great audio based on that. I mean, total just straight up direct responses, nasty comments, I have lots
Right.
of I have funny audio that comes through. But yeah, I can send you all those audio clips.
Oh, that's going to be great. Well, like I said, we'll have to set up and do a whole show just on that. That'll be pretty awesome.
Yeah, let's do it.
And you'll have to search out the old spirit box so we can see what it looks like.
Sure. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Kale, again for coming.
Thank
Really
you very much
appreciate
for
it.
having me.
And I look forward to seeing everybody. Well, maybe we'll have Kale on next Saturday. And then
Yeah, let me know.
Trish can hang with us the whole time. That'll be great.
I think
Until
she's off
then-
next weekend. She only works every other weekend, so she'll
Oh,
be
that'll
here.
be fantastic. So we'll
All
have
right.
to just, get together and we'll see what we can come up. Until then, everybody, thank you very much for joining Raw Chat, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Have a blessed week. Bye.